Starseeds and lightworkers, something inside you has been stirring. A quiet pull towards something you cannot fully name. A remembering at the edges of your awareness, like a tide that keeps returning to the same shore. I am Tyron, a representative of the High Council of Sirius, and what you are feeling right now is not your imagination. The ancient powers you carried into this lifetime are not dormant anymore. They are moving. By the end of this message, you will understand exactly what those powers are, why they are surfacing now, and how you are meant to use them in this particular season of your journey. There is a threshold that every starseed crosses, a moment when the gifts they brought from their star lineage stop feeling like distant memories and begin feeling like present reality. Healing, seeing, knowing before words arrive. The ability to sense the emotional current in a room before a single word is spoken. These are not coincidences. These are not overactive imaginations. These are Sirian codes coming back online after a very long dormancy. The fog that once surrounded your sense of purpose is beginning to clear. Like still water after a stone has passed through it, the ripples are settling and the reflection is becoming visible again. What you are capable of is far older than this lifetime, and the part of you that knows this has been quietly waiting for the right moment to step forward. You did not find this message by chance. Something far deeper than an algorithm recognized this signal and carried you here. Your soul knew before your mind did. Stay with me through this. What comes next is meant for you, and I am grateful you are here with me now. That ache you've been carrying, that sense of being too much for this world and somehow not enough at the same time, it was never a flaw. It was pressure, the same kind of pressure that forms a pearl in the dark at the bottom of the ocean, far from where anyone can see it. And pearls don't apologize for what the darkness made them into. Neither should you. There's a reason water has always felt like home to you. If what you're feeling right now is confirming something you've carried your whole life, the Sirian Water Codes is your next step. It holds ancient Sirian healing practices passed down through the waters themselves, techniques for releasing energy that was never yours, activating dormant memory through the sound of rain, and sealing your frequency with salt and intention. You'll find the link in the first pinned comment, but only briefly. Most starseeds don't feel lost because they lack purpose. It's the opposite. Deep inside, your soul carries a knowing so vast that this world sometimes feels too small to hold it. That disconnection you've been feeling, that quiet grief you can't always name, that exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix, none of it is a sign that something went wrong. It's the sign that something is going right. Something ancient is waking up inside you, and the waters within you are beginning to clear. Think about what it means to carry something ancient in a body that belongs to this world. It's like being asked to hold the ocean in a cup. The cup doesn't fail when it overflows. It simply was never designed to contain what you were asked to carry. And yet here you are, still carrying it, still feeling it press against the edges of your ordinary life, your ordinary days, your ordinary conversations that somehow never feel quite ordinary enough to satisfy the depth of what lives inside you. That pressure you feel, the one that makes you restless at 3 in the morning, the one that makes you stare at the horizon as though something on the other side is calling your name, that isn't anxiety. That is recognition. That is your soul pressing against the membrane of forgetting, trying to remind you of what you agreed to before you arrived here. You weren't sent here with empty hands. You arrived carrying codes, not in a language this world has taught you, but in the frequency of who you are, the way you sense things others miss, the way a piece of music or a body of water can move you so deeply it almost breaks you open, the way you've always known, even in your quietest moments, that there is something more you are meant to do, something you can feel at the edges of your understanding, but haven't yet been able to name. That isn't imagination. That is remembrance, trying to surface through the layers of forgetting. Consider for a moment the nature of those codes you carry. They aren't stored in your mind where logic and language live. They are stored in your body, in the catch of your breath when you see the first light of dawn touch open water, in the sudden and inexplicable sense of grief that moves through you when you witness something beautiful, in the way your hands know things your words cannot explain. You have had moments, perhaps many of them, where you knew something before you had any reason to know it, where you felt the emotional weight of a room the moment you walked in, where you understood what someone needed before they spoke, where you looked up at the night sky and felt not smallness, but familiarity, as though you were looking at something you once lived beside, something that shaped you in ways this life's biography cannot account for. Those moments are not accidents. They are data. They are your blueprint surfacing. They are your codes trying to speak to you in the only language available to them, the language of sensation, of resonance, of knowing that arrives before thought. And the forgetting was necessary, not as punishment, not as loss. The soul that chose to come here, the soul that is you, understood that the kind of awakening you're here to embody couldn't be carried in consciously from the start. It had to be found. It had to be uncovered from beneath the weight of ordinary life, ordinary pain, ordinary questions. Because a wisdom that is only inherited is not yet fully owned. But a wisdom that is rediscovered, pulled up from the depths of your own experience, that wisdom becomes unshakable. That wisdom becomes yours forever. There is something profound in that word, rediscovered. Not discovered for the first time, but found again. Recognized, the way you recognize a face you haven't seen in years, not by remembering the features one by one, but by an immediate, full-body knowing that bypasses all effort. That is what awakening feels like for a starseed. Not a learning, but a returning. Not a becoming, but an uncovering. And the veil that had to be lifted was thick by design, because the soul that designed this journey, your soul, understood something essential, that a truth you have struggled toward, that you have bled for and wept for and questioned and nearly abandoned, is a truth that will never leave you. It becomes part of the architecture of who you are. It becomes the bedrock beneath your feet. And no storm, no confusion, no loss, no season of doubt can shake what you have built on bedrock. Things have felt unclear lately, like you're trying to see through deep water. That fog isn't a sign that something is wrong with you. It's what happens when old patterns begin to dissolve. The water has to get murky before it clears. Old structures in your inner life, beliefs you absorbed without choosing them, identities you built to survive rather than to thrive. They don't release quietly. Their dissolving creates turbulence, and turbulence can feel from the inside like failure. It isn't. You're not lost. You're in transition, and that takes tremendous courage even when it doesn't feel like it. Let's stay with that image for a moment. The murky water. When sediment that has settled on the floor of a lake is disturbed, the water becomes temporarily unclear, even difficult to move through. From the outside, it might appear clouded, troubled, even contaminated. But something essential is happening beneath that murkiness. The sediment that had been compacted, heavy, layered over the true floor of the lake is being lifted, loosened, made mobile. It is in the process of being moved away so that the clean bed beneath, the original ground, can be revealed. This is what is happening in you right now. Those heavy sediments, the grief that was never properly witnessed, the shame that was never truly yours to carry, the fear that was inherited from generations who did not know how to name what they felt, they are being disturbed. And the disturbance feels like chaos. But it is, at its deepest level, a cleansing. The clarity is coming. It always comes after the murk, never before it. And the fact that you are experiencing this turbulence is evidence that the water is moving. Evidence that something in you has chosen not to stay still any longer. There is something encoded inside you that goes far deeper than anything you were taught in this life. Every starseed carries a blueprint, a set of instructions written in frequency, not in words. You're not broken and searching for answers. You're whole and beginning to remember. And that remembering often starts as a quiet feeling you can't quite explain, a pull towards something you've never seen but somehow recognize, a longing for something that doesn't have a name in the language of this world, but lives fully in the language of your soul. That pull is worth honoring. It is worth giving your full attention to, even when the world around you insists on filling every quiet moment with noise, with urgency, with the relentless demand to produce and perform and justify your existence through measurable output. Your soul does not operate on those terms. Your soul operates on resonance, and resonance requires stillness to be heard. The same way a tuning fork only sings when the surface around it is quiet enough to carry the sound. The blueprint within you is always transmitting, but if your inner world is too crowded with fear and urgency and the accumulated noise of a life lived in survival mode, the transmission cannot reach you. This is why the quiet ache has always felt more trustworthy to you than the noise. Because in the quiet, you can hear what your soul has been trying to say all along. This is where panic often sets in, because nothing seems to be moving. The days blur, the effort feels invisible. The changes you know are happening inside you don't yet have evidence in the world around you. But the stillness is not stalling, it's anchoring, like a river that pauses in a wide, calm pool before it finds the next passage through the mountains. Your soul is stabilizing what it has already received before it can hold what's coming next. Be gentle with yourself here. This phase is not a delay, it is preparation. And preparation, in the Sirian way of understanding, is itself a form of forward movement. The ancient Sirian wisdom traditions understood something that the modern world has largely forgotten, that the spaces between actions are not empty. They are full. They are full of integration, of consolidation, of the quiet work that the soul must do beneath the surface before it can sustain what will grow above it. A tree does not visibly grow during the winter, but something extraordinary is happening underground during those cold, still months. The root system is deepening. The root system is spreading. And when the spring arrives, when the conditions are finally right, the tree doesn't struggle to grow. It simply expresses what has already been prepared. This is where you are right now. Don't measure your progress by what is visible. Measure it by the depth of the roots you're laying down in the silence. You may not see it yet, but people around you are already responding to the shift within you. Maybe relationships have changed. Maybe certain places or conversations feel different, heavier or lighter than before. Maybe you've noticed that what you once needed for comfort no longer satisfies, and what you once ignored now calls to you clearly. That's not coincidence. When one current changes direction, everything downstream is affected. You don't need to announce your transformation. You are already transmitting it. And those who are meant to resonate with your frequency will find you quietly, naturally, the way rivers find the sea. This is one of the most disorienting aspects of awakening, the way it rearranges the landscape of your relationships without your conscious permission. People you once felt perfectly aligned with begin to feel distant, not through any conflict or failure, but simply because the frequency you're operating on has changed. And people you once barely noticed begin to appear in your field with new significance, drawn by something neither of you can fully articulate, but both of you can feel. This is not loss, even when it carries the texture of grief. This is selection. The universe is curating your field, removing what is no longer in harmonic resonance with what you are becoming, and quietly, steadily introducing what is. Trust this process even when it is painful. Especially when it is painful. The soul that is serious about its evolution must be willing to let some ships sail without it. And the ships that are meant to remain, they will remain because they are powered by the same current that moves through you. This is the phase that often feels the hardest because it asks you to let go of things you've been carrying so long they feel like part of you. Beliefs about who you should be, expectations placed on you by a world that didn't understand what you are. emotional weight that belonged to others but settled into your field because you were sensitive enough to absorb it, because you cared enough, felt deeply enough, stayed present long enough to take on what others couldn't hold. You have permission to set it down, all of it. The river doesn't carry every stone it passes. It lets them sink to the bottom and keeps flowing. And in the flowing, it doesn't lose itself. It becomes more fully what it was always meant to be. The sensitivity that made you a vessel for other people's unprocessed pain, that very sensitivity is one of your most sacred gifts. But like all powerful gifts, it requires wisdom in its application. The gift of deep empathy was never meant to be a burden you carry in silence. It was meant to be a bridge, a living, breathing bridge between the felt experience of one soul and the understanding of another. But a bridge is only useful when it stands on firm ground on both sides. When you absorb what is not yours without releasing it, without transmuting it, you collapse the bridge by overloading one end. The work of this season is to learn the difference between holding space and holding weight. You can feel everything. That capacity will never leave you, nor should it, but you are learning to let what is not yours flow through you rather than settle in you. Like water that carries sediment through its current but doesn't absorb it into its own nature. The river stays the river, and you will stay you, but lighter, clearer, and more fully inhabited by your own essence. You are not late, you are not behind. The delays, the detours, the years of not understanding what you were feeling, none of it was wasted. There is no such thing as a late awakening. There is only the perfect moment, and yours is unfolding right now. Every confusion you survived was the water working on you. Every loss that broke you open made more room for what you are becoming. The tide doesn't rush, but it always arrives. And you have been arriving all along, even when it felt like you were standing still. Let that settle into you. You have been arriving all along. Every single chapter of your life that felt like a detour, every year that seemed to lead nowhere, every relationship that ended in a way you didn't choose, every dream that dissolved before it could take solid shape, none of it was outside the path. All of it was the path. The Sirian understanding of time is not linear in the way this world has taught you to experience it. Time, in the deeper cosmological sense, is more like water than like a road. It doesn't move in only one direction. It spirals, it eddies, it pools and rushes and retreats. And what appears to be a backward movement, what feels like regression or stagnation or failure, is often the tide pulling back before the wave breaks fully forward. Trust the pulling back. It is gathering force for your next advance. Your mission was never about doing something extraordinary by the world's standards. It was about being present, fully, authentically present, in a way that only a soul with your specific codes can be. The ancient ones who shaped their wisdom by the Nile, who encoded truth into the very stones of what they built, understood this. The most powerful act is not the grand gesture. It is the quiet alignment of a soul with its true frequency. You don't need to figure out your entire mission today. You just need to be here, fully here, and let the current carry you to where you're meant to go. This cannot be overstated. The world does not need you to be grand. It needs you to be true. There is a difference between these two things that the modern age has nearly erased, and your soul knows the difference with absolute clarity even when your mind is uncertain. The grand gesture is visible. The true gesture is felt, and what is felt reaches places that what is visible can never touch. The starseeds who are most powerfully fulfilling their mission in this moment are not always the ones standing on visible stages. Many of them are doing what you are doing right now, sitting quietly with their own unfolding, learning the sound of their own inner current, practicing the radical act of being fully themselves in a world that has rewarded performance over presence since before either of us arrived here. Your presence is the gift. Your willingness to be real, to feel deeply, to stay in the room when everything in you wants to flee, that is the transmission. That is what the world is receiving from you whether or not anyone has ever found the language to acknowledge it. So here is what is true. You're not lost. You never were. You chose to forget, not because you were weak, but because the kind of awakening you're here to experience required you to find your way back from the deepest depth, like a pearl that can only form under pressure, in darkness, at the bottom of the ocean. What you are becoming could only be shaped by exactly what you've been through. Every moment of confusion was the water working on you, smoothing away what didn't belong, revealing what was always there underneath. And what is underneath is extraordinary. Beneath every layer of accumulated pain, beneath every belief that was placed on you without your consent, beneath every identity you wore to make it through a season that required something other than your true face, beneath all of it, there is a soul of remarkable depth and clarity. A soul that chose this exact configuration of challenges and gifts and timing. A soul that knew, before it arrived here, that the path would be difficult enough to feel impossible at times, and chose it anyway. Because the soul that designed your journey had a view of the whole picture that your human eyes cannot yet access. It saw what you would become on the other side of every difficulty. And what it saw was worth everything it asked you to go through to get there. That soul, the one that made those choices, the one that agreed to carry this blueprint through the density of human experience, that soul is you. And you are beginning to remember it. You are not here to fit into this world. You're here to gently, quietly, powerfully remind it of something it forgot, a softness it buried, a depth it stopped trusting, a way of knowing that doesn't come from logic or speed or noise, but from the kind of stillness that lives at the bottom of the ocean, undisturbed by everything on the surface. That is what you carry. That is what your presence offers, whether or not anyone has ever told you so. The world, in its current state, is desperately in need of what you carry, not because it deserves to be rescued, but because there are other souls within it, other awakening ones who need the frequency you transmit in order to remember their own. You are not carrying this gift for the world in the abstract. You are carrying it for specific people, specific encounters that have been written into the fabric of your path. Some of those encounters you will recognize immediately. Others will only make sense in retrospect when you look back from a higher vantage point and see how precisely each thread was woven into the larger pattern. In those moments, you will feel the truth of what has always been. Nothing was random, nothing was wasted. Every single thing you lived through was preparing you for the exact transmission you are meant to carry. And the fact that you're here right now, that you stayed until this moment, that tells everything about where you are. You're ready, not because everything is perfect, not because you have all the answers, but because you're still here, still listening, still willing to remember. And that, dear one, is the most powerful thing a starseed can do. Readiness, in the Sirian understanding, is not the absence of fear or confusion. Readiness is the willingness to move forward in the presence of both. It is the decision, made quietly in the interior of the self, to trust the current even when you cannot see the destination. The ocean does not need to see the shore to be the ocean. It simply moves, continuously, according to its own nature, and the shore finds it. This is the kind of readiness that lives in you right now, not the loud, certain readiness that the world tends to celebrate. The quiet, deep, unwavering readiness of a soul that has done the inner work, however imperfectly, and is now standing at the threshold of its next becoming. You are at that threshold, and the threshold is not a wall, it is a doorway, and you already have everything you need to walk through it. Tonight, if it feels right, place your hand over your heart and say quietly, I remember who I am. I trust the waters that carried me here. I am ready to flow into what comes next. Let those words be more than an affirmation. Let them be a declaration, a signal sent into the field of your own becoming. The hand over the heart is not a gesture without meaning. It is a connection between your conscious mind and the beating center of your embodied soul. The heart knows things the mind has not yet processed. When you speak those words into the warmth of your own palm, pressed against your own chest, you are completing a circuit. You are allowing the ancient knowing that lives in the rhythm of your heartbeat to rise and meet the conscious intention of your words. And in that meeting, something shifts. It may be subtle. You may not feel it immediately, but the water within you will receive it, and it will move. Before you go, leave one word in the comments, just one, that describes what you felt during this message. Then find someone else's word and respond with encouragement. This isn't just a comment section. It's a space where starseeds recognize each other, and that recognition carries more power than you know. If something in this message touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you'd like to keep receiving these transmissions, subscribe. The waters of Sirius will carry us to the next one. You're not just watching, you're remembering. This is your space, and I'm grateful you were here.